What's going on, everybody? Patrick Auger, Matthew Wells, Ant Walker, Drake Riggs, everybody's in the house tonight to talk about Petr Yan's just blatant illegal knee, just straight to Aljamain Sterling's face in the middle of their title fight. So if you haven't watched UFC 259, spoiler alert, Petr Yan lost the Bantamweight Championship via DQ, making Aljamain Sterling the 135-pound men's champion after he threw an illegal knee in the fourth round in what appeared to be a fight that he was easily on his way to win, given how gassed Aljo looked. So, I mean, guys, this is just the craziest changing of hands of a title that we've ever seen in the UFC. The first time we've ever had a DQ result in someone else becoming champion. Matt, I'm going to start with you. What was your immediate reaction to this, the knee and everything that happened?
As soon as he threw that knee, I was like, that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in a title fight happen, like by far. Like he had time to think about everything he was doing in that moment, thought about it some more, and then still threw the illegal knee. Like I couldn't believe that he actually threw it when it landed. Like that's how dumbfounded I was. And of course, seeing Aljo just the way he, obviously it rocked his world. Literally, he didn't know what was happening. And you know, if you guys have listened to him, he put out a video on his YouTube today talking about he didn't even see the knee coming, so he literally had no reaction to it other than just getting slapped upside the head with like a baseball bat. So I just couldn't believe that happened, because I knew the way that it landed. I was like, this fight's over. And it's going to be a DQ or whatever if they, you know, decided to go some other weird way by going to the scorecards. But I was like, this fight's not continuing after this.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those weird situations where, you know, after the fact, you had audio come out of Jan's corner and a whole situation devolving there where Yan asked about striking him, asked about throwing the knee, and his corner apparently yelled, hit him, according to translations. Habib heard that as well, and that, you know, sparked a lot of conversation there. And you also had people saying that Aljo was acting, and when he got hit with that, he was rolling around on the ground, and it was all an act just so he could secure the belt. And I mean, do you buy either of those situations? What were your thoughts on this?
Well, let me get the response to Aljo's quote unquote acting out of my system first, because that's kind of strikes a nerve in me. Now, if I were to have you look in a different direction and I stood above you and just kneed you as hard as I could in the temple, I don't think much acting is required for you to act like you're hurt or to be rolling around on the canvas, seemingly completely unaware of where you are. That wouldn't be a very difficult sell. That's what's called method acting. Okay, that's when you live out what you're trying to portray on screen. So if Aljo is trying to become the next the next Jack Nicholson, then I guess that's what he did there. Now, as far as the situation with the corner goes, I heard someone in the corner, and from what I understand, this was someone from American Top Team. This is the only English that I heard in the corner. I heard someone say, just punches only, something to that effect. And then the knee was thrown. So somebody in Jan's corner has a serious translation issue here. So what it seems to be from the replay that they showed at the end of the broadcast, the cornerman that said punches only or just punch, then that was followed by someone in Russian saying something to Yan, who then threw the knee. So there's bad translation in the corner, but at the end of the day, that belongs to Petr Yan. Like, he is the one who was responsible for that. I understand there are positions that you can get into where you don't see what the other person is doing necessarily, where you don't see if their hand is down or something like that. If you got like a front headlock position against the fence and it's hard to see what parts of their body are touching the canvas, I understand that. But in that scenario, in the middle of the cage, Aljo was on one knee. There's no room for interpretation here. He was a down fighter, plain and simple. And no matter what your corner says, you should know the rules and not to knee someone in the head in that moment. I don't care if the corner told him to shoot the guy. That's not in the rule set. So therefore, don't do it. That simple.
Yes, it's true. Shooting has not been adopted by the unified rule set yet. Anyway, who knows? That might pop up at some point. I mean, I can see that, Yan was looking down right above Sterling, so maybe he didn't quite see it. But yeah, you clearly have some issues in terms of, some translation going on there. Drake, what are your thoughts on this whole situation? Especially with Yan then raising his hand at the end, right, when they were announcing that Aljo was getting the belt, and Aljo taking pictures with the belt afterwards. I mean, what are your thoughts on the knee as well as everything else in regards to this whole debacle?
Yeah, it is all very weird and very unique situation that happened on that night. And having been there, not to toot that horn again, but we were all very excited for, I know, but I got to give the perspective here. All right. So right. We were all very excited for that first title fight. The knee, it just deflated, the whole event. And of course there were only 2 fights left after that, but it really just kind of was like, what did that really just happen? We saw a title actually change hands via disqualification. It feels very, very wrong. But it's the right thing to do. That's an illegal move. You can't do it. And maybe the worst case of one where they were in that position for a good enough period of time where there's no way that it was unintentional. He clearly meant to throw the knee. He did throw the knee. It landed very flush. And then the weirdest part about it might be that Yan is raising his hand afterwards like he still won, which leads you to believe that he didn't know that that was illegal. Having had that much time to think about it and then thinking he's still going to win or get a no contest was maybe what he was celebrating for. Either way, a weird reaction to what you just did, sir. That was very bizarre. Then the aftermath with Sterling having his party and all that kind of stuff. He was probably going to have one either way. Fighters have certain people there no matter what, and just happens how it is. I don't really know what to make about all of that drama. I haven't really paid too much attention to it just because everyone else is paying attention to it for me. From what I have seen, it seems like maybe his friends and the people there were like, come on, man, don't be down on yourself. You still made it here. You are the champion. Now, he did the wrong thing. They're trying to make him accept it more. And, he did release a video an hour or so before we went on here right now and explained it for 30 minutes or so. I only watched a little bit of the beginning, but of course, not the way that he wanted to win. It sounds like, from what I've seen, again, we didn't get to talk to him because he went to the hospital right after, that he is okay with the rematch. But now Henry Cejudo is rearing his head into this mix and making things very interesting with that possibility. And I guess from the standpoint of looking at how the fight played out, if Sterling was to try and avoid a rematch with Yan, couldn't really blame him because he, was arguably losing and on his way to losing, even though one judge did have him winning up until that point. It has just been a whirlwind of different things happening around this fight. It is absolute chaos. And leave it to the Bantamweight division, which is so goddamn hot right now, just across the board in MMA. For this to happen at the absolute peak of that mountain is just complete MMA. That's just how the MMA gods would, stir this up for us.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's peak MMA is a great way to describe this entire situation. And we will cover Henry Cejudo entering into the mix in a different video and whether or not he should get the immediate shot at the belt if he does come back, quote unquote, like you say. We'll cover that in a different video. Look out for that. But in terms of what happened in this fight, right, I think you've got two major issues that both Ant and Drake and Matt, all three of you really hit on a little bit here, where there's clearly some translation issue with, Yan speaking Russian, asking for, in his corner, do I hit him or not? I think given how tired Aljo was, and I'm sure Yan could feel that, we all kind of knew by round 4, he was gassing out from just his crazy pace that he put on at the beginning of this fight. I think Yan was looking for Aljo to start getting up and waiting to, hit him with a knee as he was not grounded anymore. I believe that to be the game plan. I'm giving Yan the benefit of the doubt there. Did he still mess up royally? Should he, have checked more? Especially if you can't understand a ref who said moments before he did it, do not throw a knee. Like that right there is a huge problem. Even if you're not going to learn, the entire English language, that's totally fine. I don't expect you to. But if you're getting into a fight where you're going to have to listen to a ref who mostly speaks English and probably won't, translate anything to Russian, you've got to at least know a couple key words or phrases that you've got to watch out for. And you've got to know the rules to the team, play it safer with the rules of something like a ground opponent. So I will give Yan the slight benefit of the doubt here that he messed up. I'm going to believe that. I'm also going to give the benefit of the doubt to Aljo in terms of people saying he was acting. I don't believe that for a second. I think he was really hurt. If he was acting, he's the only one that's going to actually know that. And bravo to him, because I certainly didn't feel like he was putting on a performance. But, this all begs the question with this crazy situation happening. We've seen other promotions, both in the past and now currently over in Ryzen. Knees, soccer kicks, all that stuff is totally fair game. And in those promotions, this would have been a surefire, win for the champion. Question becomes, do we think you should be allowed to knee a ground opponent? We'll leave soccer kicks out of this because that's a little bit higher level of violence. So I know, Drake. I know. We'll cover it another time. Me and you could go on and on about soccer kicks, but knees to the. We'll focus on the specific foul at hand here that caused the DQ. Knees to ground opponents. Should they be allowed? Matt, I'll start back with you.
Yeah, they should be, because most fighters use that position as a stall tactic instead of, actually, being a part of the natural flow of the fight. They will get kind of like in that, whether it be like the fighter that's kind of on their back or kind of like on the side of their back, they'll drop down and put the hand on the mat so they can't get that knee wrapped around up to the head. It's a stall tactic and I hate it, but in terms of how it relates to this fight, it's the rules. So Yan definitely has to know this. I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt of, hearing the wrong translation or the corner translating the wrong thing. At the end of the day, like Ant said, you got to know what you're supposed to do in there. And the fact, I'm also not going to give him the benefit of the doubt of saying he needed to hear from his corner what to do in that moment. Like, you're a fighter. Like, you should know hitting, you should know how to hit your opponent and how to hit him legally, especially when you're a championship level fighter. Doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, at the end of the day, I would like to see this rule changed because I don't like the fact of how many fighters will use it just for a stall tactic to kind of figure things out and just kind of think about the situation for a few seconds, whether they're thinking about how to escape from it or just kind of waiting for their opponent to do something a little bit different. I just don't like how it's currently used, because the alternative is better in terms of the flow of the fight. And I don't think it's any more dangerous of a position than just, a standing head kick, for example. So, change the rules.
All right. That's one in favor of changing the rules. And we'll go over to you. I mean, you could argue that Aljo was using that knee to the ground as a stall tactic as well, right? I mean, what's your thoughts on this, Ant?
I mean, you can say a lot of dumb shit, but it wouldn't make it true. Aljo just got in a bad position and, he got hit with an illegal shot. I'm in agreement with Matt about the rule changing and why it should change. Excuse me. Had to hold in that sneeze on there. That's pretty bad. But anyway, I think that it's a good idea to legalize the knees to a downed opponent, because too many people will try to stall. It messes up the flow of activity, and quite frankly, it adds another layer to the game. You can't say you shoot in for a sloppy takedown. Well, sloppy takedowns a lot of times are used as their own stall tactic. If you shoot in on a sloppy takedown and you find yourself getting sprawled out, man, if you get kneed in the head from that position, might make you think twice about using a stall tactic that bad, or just throwing in a random, double leg attempt if you don't really have it. So I think it makes things a lot better for the entertainment of the sport and just the flow of the activity. So definitely legalize the knees to a downed opponent. And quite frankly, I don't think it's any more dangerous than catching someone in a tie plum. If you've ever been in a tie plum and you've eaten knees, the person holding you in that clinch can guide your body to make it worse. Someone can tie clinch you and drive your head down as they drive their knee up and multiply the force. So I don't really see how that's any less dangerous than someone on their knees getting kneed in the head.
Hey, Ant, what if I told you you could fully mount your opponent and like rain elbows down from like that far away, and that's legal?
As long as you don't go 12-6.
Yeah, 12-6. That's dangerous.
Other than that, that's really dangerous. That makes things really dangerous. So don't do that.
Yeah, no way. No way at all. All right, Drake, we've got 2 in favor of getting rid of knees to a ground opponent. If you answer that you believe that this should be illegal, then I will admit that everything I thought I knew about you was just completely false. So, Drake, what's your stance on this?
Well, you know me well enough, Pat, so you are correct there. Yes, this 100% should be legal. And Ant and Matt completely pretty much took the words out of my mouth on all counts there. And the biggest thing for me is the lack of difference in danger. Like, I don't care so much about the stalling methods there, just because I think that's smart in terms of how you got to play the game, right? Don't hate the player, hate the game. But the danger level, I think, is not much more drastic than eating a flush head kick, And I think that, I like realism in fighting, which of course fighting is a very real thing, but having, certain rules, we do need rules, certain types of rules, of course, to make this a sport and not completely barbaric, deathmatch type stuff. But having just these 2 strikes, knees to downed opponents, as well as soccer kicks. I'm going to bring them into the mix. I don't care what you have to say. They add such a new element of things to think about for the fighters, and just a different, wrinkle to it. Like, for example, I always remember early on in Miyu Yamamoto's, run that she went on here before suffering the loss to Ayaka Hamasaki and what have you in Ryzen. One of her main defenses to getting out of arm bars was kicking opponents in the head, because you can do that. And like, that's something that you can think about in that situation where it's allowed. Whereas here, you might have to be better technically to get out of it without, kicking somebody and striking them. But it's more realistic that way. It's realistic to be able to strike somebody out of, breaking your arm or what have you. So I like that. The fact that, having fighting be as realistic as if it was happening on the street, but at the same time, I'm not saying to get crazy and include eye gouges or anything like that and go back completely to, the UFC 1 days or whatever. But I am all in favor of, knees to a down opponent. You guys really summed it up perfectly. So that is all I will add to that.
Yeah, no, that's 3-0, and I'll make it 4-0 for knees to a downed opponent should be legal. I mean, for me, it's, as everyone said, you've all pretty much hit all the main points. Until I see some study that says that knees to the head cause more damage than a head kick, or as Ant mentioned specifically, a tie clinch where you're driving the head down and eating a knee to the head, I don't see any reason that they should be illegal. I'm also with Drake on soccer kicks, but that's a whole different video. I mean, it's one of those things where it seems kind of ridiculous that it is a rule when you think about fighters using it for stall tactics or it messing up the flow, when in a real fight, right, you would for sure knee someone who had just one palm or one finger on the ground or what have you. So let us know how you feel about the entire Petr Yan, Aljamain Sterling debacle. Do you believe that, all intentions were good, but things went awry? Do you think that the title should change hands because of a DQ? Do you think that knees to a downed opponent should be legal or not? Let us know in the comments. Make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, and the notification bell if you haven't done that as well. And yeah, I mean, until till next time, guys. When shooting might be adopted by the unified rule set, I think we're gonna have to just kind of stop kneeing people in the head when they're right there. So
Hollow points are more effective than knees.